This level was started mostly just like the kind of the opening shot where you're coming out of the cave and you really see this big temple was pretty early in the design of the level, where I wanted to kind of have this, you know, kind of picturesque moment here, and also being able to see your end goal from the entrance as well. This is one of the more, I guess we call it pretzel levels, where the course is very much kind of going around itself. It's kind of using this one art space for the different game mechanics. So instead of having a long corridor that has all the mechanics and we have to do art all the way down that corridor or whatever, we take it in one space. In this case, we go outside the temple, we go inside the temple, and then we go across, and you're still able to see the temple when you finish the game, and it's kind of, you're looking down on it. So it's really trying to reuse the art assets by staying in the same space as you're going through the level. This is another one of our earlier uses where we're going to a more extreme camera angle for dramatic effect when you're going into the temple and having the snow falling away down the cliffs as you go, just for the added drama. And we know exactly what you're going to be doing because the gameplay is constrained to that curve that's kind of hugging the cliff wall here. So we know it's safe to take the camera up into a more extreme position than the typical gameplay camera.
I love, in general, the kind of circuitous route through this whole level. The fact that you get through one area and then slide down to another and then sidle across cliff face over to another, and etc. There's kind of an interesting route through the whole level. I like the firework platforms too. Those were a great idea.
I think this was the first use of this use of lasers where it's really close. It's just close to the ground. It's not like sweeping across the whole hallway. It's creating this, this dynamically changing play area that when you first come up to it, it's like, oh, it's fairly intimidating because you see the glow on the ground. You see it's like this, it's constantly changing, but they're actually pretty easy to play. So it's kind of making things, for more inexperienced players, having them see a moment where it looks very dangerous and them getting through it successfully is something that it's good because it gives them a sense of accomplishment. So that's the reason why it's just kind of this cool thing that's actually fairly easy to play through. And once this one was put in the game, there's several other areas where we decided that we could use this and change the speeds and change the sweep patterns to give it a different feel, and just make it faster makes the difficulty harder. So you can definitely dial it up to be challenging, but in this case it was set up for one of the earlier levels, so it's pretty straightforward actually.
So Andrew, you modeled out this level?
Yes, another level that you designed.
What do you like about this world?
Let's see.
Or level, I should say.
What do I like about it? I like, there's something great about the space. There, the fact that it's taking place, very quickly inside and then outside of these tall, narrow buildings, and that they form both the kind of foreground, sometimes the surroundings, and then actually the background, kind of the sideshow, the thing that you're looking at in the distance. So you're constantly seeing places that you've been before in the level from a distance, from a different vantage point, and I think that gives you this sense of continuous world more than some of the other ones maybe.
That was definitely a goal with a lot of these snow levels, was to give you that inside-outside feeling.
Right.
And this level starts with something that we thought was going to be really difficult for players, which was you get up to this door and it's locked and there's no way to open it. And there are two open windows you can go in, and it's pretty easy to overcome. This level was actually made before the Paris level, but we had to test it and have people experience the frustration not being able to get through the door to know if it was gonna be okay or if it was gonna be too aggravating to include in the game. But that is a seriously simple mechanic that seems to reflect sort of breaking and entering,
Right.
And the whole level is like that. You're going in, you're going out, you're on top of roofs.
Always entering through windows,
Yeah.
doors.
This level has a really bizarro laser grid on the floor.
Right.
And it's bizarro because there isn't a discernible pattern to how you're supposed to go through it.
Right.
You look at it and you think, okay, if I study this long enough, I'll see that I need to go left, left, right, left.
Right.
But really, there's none of that. You can stare at it for 45 minutes and you won't see the same thing again because it's all just slightly out of cadence with each other.
Yeah.
So you have to, right off, you just have to make it up as you go along.
And once you get into the middle of it, it's pretty. I mean, there's, if you're really paying attention, there's enough time to adjust to what's going on. But it's great because you've got everything out of phase enough that it feels very almost random. One thing about this level too, this is maybe one of the cases where we learned a little bit about not having the level designers model out quite as much of the actual terrain or the walls and things like that. So the buildings initially in this were fairly tightly modeled, and the gameplay was fairly tightly constrained to the buildings, and they were initially fairly straight, like a lot of the stuff is that we get after after level design has been through it. And so making it kind of funky and unusual was a little bit of a challenge, and eventually required us to go back in and change a little bit of the way the spaces were laid out and everything. But I think it ultimately worked out really well. But it was a challenging level because you've got gameplay both on the inside and the outside of these buildings. So the wall is very, in a lot of places we've got room to just push back the wall in places here and there, and in this one it was very tight and brought up its own unique challenges that I think a lot of the other ones didn't have.
I kind of used the fireworks in this level as kind of gating mechanisms to keep you kind of dodging and running from Carmelita while you're playing.
Right.
And also just to have bigger, kind of these big events during the game.
Just from texturing, I know, like on the mugshot where she's shooting at you, the colors were reversed of this. Like in this one, Sly Cooper's path is all cool, and where Carmelita's jumping around is where we kept the warm colors. But in the mugshot one, it's kind of reversed, where Sly's running on the warm path and she's jumping on the cool buildings.
Yeah, during her effect was kind of funny. She originally had a different, entirely different weapon, and we really wanted to kind of emphasize this stun gun feel, and it was interesting to try and tune because the color tones of the world in general were, she appears in several places, and so it was finding something that had a little bit of, it has this icy color, but also this sort of orange center to it, and that seemed to work best across the different levels.
So was it your idea always to have it? Do you have other ideas besides that dragon, or was it?
After I changed from the Buddha one, it was. I think Devin was the one that mentioned trying to see if we could do a dragon for it, and then which was good because for a Chinese dragon, you have that great shape that you could fold. I was able to fold it and shape it how I needed it for where she's going to stand on and stuff like that. And then you put in all the legs and everything like that.
Yeah, so we're trying to think of places on the dragon, on the high and low points of the humps of the dragon, and then also there are these kind of freestanding poles in the abyss of the mist that you can see down there. That just having her stand in as many different places as possible made her feel really like she was sort of part of the world, but always just out of reach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a big thing. You have to keep her on screen.
Right.
Keep her large enough to see her, and at the same time make it seem like you could never get to her.
Right.
So the
you're not tempted
closest
to leap off the path to your death or something like that.
One of the first drafts I did of it had a giant panda Buddha statue laying on his side where she was jumping on, and just wasn't the same. So I'm glad we went with the golden dragon.
Never got to see that one.
I tried to keep it away from people. It wasn't very good.